and welcome back to episode 9 of Keys to the Market, your favorite real estate podcast. And as always, we're your favorite real estate team. We're the Lime Cooler Group from Southern California. My name's Eric, and I'm joined by my mom, Kathy.
Hi.
And my brother, Ryan.
Hey.
Today, we're going to keep going down that same series we were the last time of what we're talking about, the buyer's aspect of kind of the process you go through as a buyer when you're going to purchase a house. If you're a seller and you want to know what you do on that side of the transaction, go back and listen to the past 6 or 7 episodes we did of that entire thing and then come here.
Oh, you remember.
But this one is we're going to go through buyers. Last time we talked about the buyer consultation, which is the very first meeting you're going to have between your agent and you as a buyer. And then this time we're going to talk about actually going out and trying to find the house that you're looking for and how you're going to finance that deal. But before we get into all of that, let's talk about kind of what we're seeing out in the market. Where are you guys at?
Nothing great.
That's always a good way to start.
It's just that time of year, really. I talk like I've been in it a long time, but I've read a lot about it, and I have seen that around the holiday season, people are kind of ready to just not put their house on the market, but just to wait until the new year. So they're celebrating with their families. They enjoyed their Thanksgiving. They're getting ready for Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever they're celebrating, and and so the market kind of reflects that.
Yeah. It's kind of... Oh, sorry. I was going to say, in what he was saying, it's kind of an interesting thing. I think you've kind of seen this as we've talked throughout the podcast, is like anytime you as a viewer are kind of busy or there's stuff going on in your life, Christmas, summer, blah, 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 is when the market is going to be slow. If there's any time that you look at this podcast and think, I don't know if I really want to listen about real estate right now, that's when the market's probably going to be slow, because there's a lot of people thinking that.
But there's good news that I can tell you. For anybody that really was going to be ready to jump back in the market, I think I would tell you to take this month and relax, enjoy the holidays, and be ready, because we're a real estate group. There are many real estate groups out there, and I can tell you we all have homes that are coming on the market after the first of the year. We have clients right now that are getting their houses ready. We're going to stage them. We're going to have them ready to sell. And it's kind of like getting prepared for an event at your house, whatever that be, right? You take a few months before, you plan, you prep, you primp, all of that to get ready. And that's what's happening right now. So we get a sense from what's happening with our own clients that after the beginning of this year, there's going to be quite a few homes that come on the market. So that's what I would say.
So you're saying that, and I've been in these conversations with you, but you're saying that you would tell people to not list their house right now if they didn't have to.
I pause in that as a universal statement, because I think it depends on everybody's situations. We have clients that need to sell right now. So we're ready and happy to get them ready and get their houses ready and on the market and get the best price we can. But for a lot of people, I was saying this to you about even marketing pieces. There's a lot of noise out there right now because people are into your group, your family, your friends, your whoever it is that you want to celebrate the time with, and it's a little bit slower on the market for those reasons.
But selling your home is like a whole process, we went over on the last 7 episodes. And I think that it is good to right now, if you do have some idea of, I may want to sell my house in 2025, or what would that look like? This is a good time to start preparing, like you talked about. We've had 3 different people reach out to us already because they know that sometime next year they'd like to sell. And we can help guide you as to when the best time is, whether it's, a month after the new year, to wait a little bit further into the spring, things like that. Because then we get all the information and we can really kind of organize everything for our clients.
But the other side of what you're saying, which is where we are now, is if you're a buyer, we're telling you that houses are going to be coming on the market. So part of our whole reason for this episode is get ready. We're going to tell you to get ready.
In terms of being both a seller or a buyer, kind of to Ryan's point is, if you're waiting until January to do anything to get ready, you've kind of already missed the market. Yeah. We're not telling anyone to list now or in January or at the beginning of January, but if you're not preparing for it, you're not going to be ready in time. Right. The big market time is going to be the end of January, beginning of February. That's when we're telling people to put their houses on the market. And if you're not preparing at least or talking to us at this time, you're going to miss the boat.
Right.
Honestly, it's kind of like that comparison of like, you know how most people like right as the new year starts, they want to go back to the gym, and then there's 3,000 people waiting at the gym for them.
Very true.
That's kind of what the market's going to look like. So if you can get your exercise in right now, you'll be a whole month ahead of everybody else.
And
who's
you'll
just
be
trying
a
to get it
regular at
together.
the gym.
Exactly.
All right, so like we said, we're going to get into the actual home search itself and how you're financed in doing so. So we're going to start out with that financing piece. I think Ryan has a couple questions. We're going to get into that, but this is just at least the place you begin after you talk to us at a buyer consultation.
So financing, why is that so important?
It puts you in the position. There's a few reasons. Because did you ever, like, you have a budget. There's a budget that you can afford. There's amount of money monthly that you can pay. You've been saving so long for this home, and it's exciting and you're ready to go, but you need to know where to go. Like, there's neighborhoods you should be looking in and neighborhoods you really shouldn't be looking in for lots of reasons. They're above your price range, they're below your price range, like really what it is that you're looking for. And we always say that, like, if you can afford Nordstrom, it's nice to walk into Nordstrom and get whatever you want. If it's Gucci that you can afford, that's a little bit different. Or if it's Target that you can afford, that's a little bit different. And every single store has great things.
Target has all the best.
And everything's the same with houses. Like, you can find a house, but you need to know, you need to talk to a professional who's fluid in mortgage rates and mortgage programs and everything about what you're looking for. If you're a nurse, there might be a different program for you than if you're a firefighter, or if you're a teacher, or if you're a first-time home buyer. And it's nice to know what's available, what the costs are going to be, and what type of home you're looking for, what the price range is in the home that you're looking for. And that gets you ready for that, because there's nothing worse than to go out and be at a home that you desperately fall in love with and it's above your price range, and then you're kind of, everything else looks after that.
I also think that it's important because they'll both tell you, I'm one, like, if there's an app for something, I'm downloading it and using every single app there possible. So I know that there's a lot of online web things and apps you can do to figure out how much your mortgage is going to be on something and how much this, if you're going to, but there's a lot of stuff people, and me included, I mean, I'm in real estate. I bought a house 2 years ago and I didn't know a lot of these things that are included in financing of something. That app or that website you're using to see how much you can afford isn't entirely accurate. We're listing interest rates right now, by and large, of what it is, but we're talking about the general interest rate on the market. We're not talking about the interest rate you are going to get as a buyer with how much you're putting down, what your everything looks like. We can't quote to you the costs of different things and how much this is going to be and what's that going to look like. And you're saying there's different programs out there. So, like, yes, I agree with using these apps, or Google even has one that you can kind of just see, like, if I want to spend $2,000 a month and I'm putting this amount of money down, how much of a house can I afford? But there's a lot more nuance to that if you're actually going to try to start looking, you need to talk to a professional that actually can quote you on legitimate things and let you realize what you actually can afford.
Right. And because a loan is not a loan is not a loan.
Yes.
There's lots of different options within that spectrum of loans. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of loans you could secure and why you would go about getting that loan versus another loan.
Right.
There's a lot of different loans. I mean, by and large, when you think about it, you're thinking of a conventional loan. Right. But there's other loans out there, and even within conventional, there's different things you can do.
Programs.
You can have a fixed rate mortgage or an adjustable rate mortgage. What does that mean? Right. Quickly, I'll say that. I mean, again, go talk to a financial professional that actually knows all of this. But a fixed rate means that normally in the United States, it's a 30-year fixed rate, meaning that the interest rate that you get when you buy the house will be that same interest rate for the entirety of the 30 years.
Change it.
An adjustable rate means that it changes based on the market. Most adjustable rates these days have a certain period of time in which they are fixed, and then they adjust. They usually adjust every 6 months or a year, and it follows the market, which means that if you had an adjustable rate in the past couple years, you would have been great. You'd love it. It went down to 3%. I'm happy. But then the interest rates crept back up, and you at that adjustable rate would have crept back up. So it changes different things. I think you can talk more about like FHA, VA, all of those type of things. Oh, we're getting called in the middle of our podcast.
Somebody wanted to sell a house.
But FHA, VA, other type of programs, I don't know if you want to go into them.
And they are different. Like I've often said, I'm a proponent of VA loans. I mean, what a great give back. Like it's a great incentive for veterans of our country. And a lot of times agents are no to VA loans, but the reason that they're no is because even the agents don't understand them. So you need somebody, especially if you're a nuance of a VA, a first-time home buyer, you need to find a mortgage person that's fluid in that, because they can help you and guide you down the road to a good answer in the end, and being able to finance a loan through that, whereas other people don't quite understand. And then again, I said it before, but there are also different programs for different fields of occupation. There's doctors' loans, there's teachers' loans, there's firemen's loans. There's all kinds of loans that could possibly help you as well.
So with those loans, is there a way to leverage your loan or your financial situation in your offer to make it more competitive?
Sure. That's another important thing, is because we, over our time, and have found some really great lenders who we work with, and we work with lenders who are class acts. Kind of like our when we put an offer in, it comes with a whole package on the loan, the pre-approval. So the seller and the agent can look down and see exactly where this money's coming from. And it puts you in a better position. It makes you look, when you're selling your house, your largest investment, you want something that's clean and easy, not hard and mazy, right? And that's what this does. It helps you figure out the best possible way to put a loan in process and get it to go for offering on a house.
I think also in terms of that, there's a lot of different aspects to a loan. So a loan itself means that's the amount of money you are financing. That's the amount of money you're getting from someone else, which also means that there's a certain portion of it that's your down payment. So assuming I have $1 million house, if let's just do a 20% down, I'm putting $200,000 down and I'm taking an 80% loan. What that means is we've talked about contingencies in the past. So in those contingencies we talked about in the sellers, again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back. But in the contingencies, out of the 3 biggest ones we're talking about, 2 of them have to do with loans.
Right.
One of them is the appraisal, and one of them is actually the loan contingency.
Yes.
So it's a large part of the transaction. If you have a good lender, like you're saying, you can talk to that lender, and they might be able to. The normal timeline for both of those is 17 days to release that contingency. Right. But a lender might say, we can get you the appraisal in 10 days, so you can lower that contingency timeline. We can get you loan approval in 14 days, so we can lower that timeline. Also, a down payment, so discussing with your lender what that down payment, right. If you raise your down payment, it can make your loan look stronger. What I mean by that is, most of the time if you have an appraisal, that means the house has to appraise at a certain value. It means that the bank has to say that they're willing to take on that investment. What that means, though, is if I have $1 million house and I'm putting $200,000 down, the bank has to believe that house will at least get them $800,000 out in the end if something were to go wrong.
But 25%.
If I put 50% down.
Oh, now you're really going.
Now all the bank has to believe is that $1 million house could get them $500,000.
Yeah.
Given that us as real estate agents aren't going to tell you to always do that, because that means you're putting down $500,000, and if something were to happen, you're the one holding the bag. So there's nuance to all of this, but in just talking about the financial aspect of it, having those discussions of reducing contingency timelines, different amounts of down payments and whatnot, can make you stronger in an offer during a competitive market.
Was huge in 2020 and 2021. Like poor people were releasing everything. They've lost all their contingencies. And we're not there now, but we still, the stronger you are in your offer, the better chance you have of getting accepted. Is what I would say.
It's the reason there's a saying, and this is still said in many of our conversations with sellers, is the reason that there's a saying that says cash is king. Because cash means that the person that is buying the house has the money in their bank account. There's no need for the appraisal or the loan contingency. There's no risk there. So putting more down payment and whatnot is mitigating that risk to some degree.
But even if you can't, you can still mitigate the risk for the seller with the way you put together your offer. And we discussed that with you when we sat down.
Without doubt.
So are there mistakes that I could make as a buyer with my financing? Like, is it a good idea, like when we're in escrow on my new house, to like get that new
Car?
like Tesla that would match my
No.
So-
See, that's the other thing about why we're
Or
talking.
a brand new credit card, right?
Yeah.
We had that.
That's why we're talking to you about why you need to talk to a professional. A lot of people will just go online and I'm just going to say Rocket Mortgage because I don't know. There's a lot of them, and just fill out a paperwork and get a number. And you really need to sit and talk to a qualified person because they're going to tell you the pitfalls. We've had that happen. Like we've talked to people, and right before a transaction's due to close in the next week, and they go out and get a MasterCard. And that literally affects everything in the transaction. So there's different things that you just need to be aware of. You can still get that credit card, or you can still get the Tesla if you want it. But do it after you purchase your home.
Essentially, the reason all of this, the credit card, the Tesla, all of that, is it has to do with pulling on your credit and adding to your credit line. If we're talking about buying a house and doing a loan, it has to do with your FICO score, it has to do with how much credit you have and all of that. By doing something along those lines that changes it, you're changing the math on the credit side, which makes it more difficult. It could raise your interest rate, it could do all of that. Another pitfall, I would say too, that people is you need to also shop around for your loan.
Yes.
And that doesn't have to mean that you go to different lenders. It can mean that, but one of the professionals we're talking about is a broker. So that means that he is able to shop around to different loan programs, different banks, different everything to make sure you get the right price. In the same way let's talk about buying a car. You're not just going to go into the one place and be like, that one. You're going to look at least online and say, what the price over here? What does this one looks like? Can I get the same price, but that one has a navigation system? Blah, blah, blah.
Sometimes, too, with lenders, people think that all lenders have everything, and they don't. Like some specific programs, only some banks have, or only some agencies have. It depends. And I think you need to, the more you shop, the more you understand when something good comes up.
And the good thing about a lot of qualified professional lenders is that they will tell you that. That most of the lenders that we work with that are good at their job and whatnot, if they do not have that program, they're going to say to you, that program works better for you because you're a doctor. I can't give you a doctor's loan, but here's someone I know that can, because what matters most is getting you into the house at the right everything.
Right.
So I don't feel afraid of talking to lenders and telling them whatnot. It's part of the business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So moving on from financing, so once we have your financing information, what your pre-approval is, we're able to better search for you or help you search for homes that are within your wheelhouse, within your price range. How does that help refine the search in general?
I think one of the biggest things with the home search is from the start. In the beginning, you have all of these ideas. You want everything. Everybody wants everything. I don't blame you for wanting everything. But as time goes on and you realize where your price range is and what's available to you, you start to realize what's more important to you. And an example is I had a client that wanted, they said in the beginning that their most important things were a single story, a cul-de-sac, a view, and a big backyard. Okay, so we're looking, and as they got to their price range, as we looked more and more, we realized that the cul-de-sac was huge to them. The single story, they wanted at least a bedroom downstairs. Mm-hmm. And then the other part was when we went with the big backyard and the view, I kept sending them all these view properties, and then they finally said, you know what? We really want a yard for our family. So a yard's more important than the view. So we'll give up the view because that's not as major important. And I think that you get that through searching. The more you send, the more you search, the more you drive a community. I always say to people, if you think you like a community, drive it in the morning.
Take a walk at night.
Take a walk in the evening, and even in the afternoon, walk around it. Like feel like you're part of the community before you actually make that big step.
I think one of the things in this, it's a hard thing to kind of explain. It's pretty intangible, but you're not, while some people, like, we need 4 bedrooms because we have 3 kids. So like that makes sense. But a lot of the time, the things you're talking about, the single story, the cul-de-sac, the view, you're really more searching for a lifestyle than you're actually searching for those specific things. That person is saying they want a single story and a cul-de-sac because they want their children to feel safe on the road, and they want to feel as though like that they don't have, if they're getting older, that they don't have to walk upstairs or whatnot. But can that be found in another way? Sometimes we've had people say they want single stories, but it's like you can put an elevator in right here for $5,000 or whatever it may be because it's perfectly set up. Or like you say you want a cul-de-sac, but this is actually a gated community when no one drives through, when you can feel comfortable with your kids being in the front yard. So it's hard because it's like a lot of the time this happens where we go through all these lists and we go through this buyer questionnaire where we get people's ideas and whatnot. And that's all important and matters, but it also matters to like understand more why you're saying certain things and what you actually want out of those things.
A funny thing that happened when you first started, Ryan's the one that came up with the buyer questionnaire, because when he first started, people were just saying things to us, and Ryan was like, I think we gotta make this a little bit more refined and get them to go down this in a little bit of a rabbit hole as to trying to figure out what they really want. What are they really looking for? And I think that's why you came up for it. We start with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start for everybody. I mean, whether you're just in the beginning stages or whatever, as soon as you get that number of what range you're looking at, it's good to say, I want all of these things. And then even the buyer questionnaire has things like, what's a deal breaker for you? What's something that you just cannot live without? Having an idea of those things lets us prioritize while we're looking on the back end. Like, oh, this house has this, but it doesn't have this, and this is so important to them. And then as you go out there and we schedule showings for you and you get into other houses, your mind changes, because just having the concept of what you want your house to be is different than walking into a house and feeling like, oh, this is my home. And what you don't want to do is cut out so many properties that you're not seeing those houses that could potentially be that. But you don't want to have it so broad that you're, at 20 listings every single week and you're overwhelmed with everything and you're missing out on houses and it all becomes a crazy process. So this really helps us narrow it down in the ways that makes it more personal for you to feel like the houses that we're seeing make sense for us to see.
There's something too that I wanted just to go back to with when we were talking about finances, because when I first, long time ago, but when I first got into real estate, I had a lot of people that I had known, friends, coached, taught, and when it first came to helping them find a house, they were a little concerned with my knowing all of their finances. And we don't know your finances. We don't need to know your finances because you trust your finance professional. All that happens to us is the finance professional, and you decide what your price range is, and you say to us, this is the price range we're comfortable in, and we let it go. We trust your professionals. I just wanted to say that because I think that people think that we don't want to be in your finances. We want to help you find the house that you can comfortably afford.
So when it comes to actually viewing the houses, what is a good strategy if it's a competitive market? I think that sometimes we see people who go into seeing houses and they think that they can just take their time and see it all and really think on things. But in a competitive market, you almost have to be ready to go as soon as you see that house that clicks with you, or else you can miss it in a second.
We keep saying about the preparation, but that's the biggest point in that, right? Because if you're prepared, you're ready to go. Any test you ever took, the person who didn't prepare is not going to do well. The person that did prepare is going to pass it, right? That's just how it goes. And in a competitive market, you need to know what you've seen, what are you looking for, and that you're prepared to write your offer pretty much right away. And a lot of that happens with communication. We need to communicate with you so that we're almost out there looking every day for the home that we know that you're going to love, so that we're ready to go, I would say.
I think on the other side of that, it's sometimes, you kind of mentioned it, Ryan, a little bit ago. It's hard. I mean, you're trying to buy a house. You don't want to miss out on the market. And a lot of the time that leads to people just wanting to see everything.
Right.
And and I get it. I mean, I'm a person. I mean, we've talked about, when we talked about the selling side, we're talking about that, like, we leave no stone unturned. It's important. You want to see everything. But sometimes that actually leads to more confusion.
Yes.
It puts you in too many places. You're getting too many emails. You're getting too many ideas. You're seeing too much. And I think it's important to have that strategy of, like, seeing. I mean, I think a lot of the time when we our beginning in terms of looking at houses would start with us. If you're someone that's saying, I want to live in these 3 cities, we would try to set up a time when we show you examples of houses in each of the 3 cities, the big communities that you might be interested in each of those cities, so that you can get a better idea of what you're really looking for. Does that mean that you can't buy a house in the other city if you say you might not love it as much? No, of course not. But it gives you a more tailored approach to it and a better strategy, so that you're not wasting your time. And I think also people have a harder time sometimes in a competitive market or a non-competitive market. It takes a while to find a house. Sometimes people look for months, maybe even a year sometimes, if they're looking for that perfect house. And if you're getting stuff every single day, looking here and there, you're going to burn out. It's like anything. So you have to have an idea of what you're really looking for, so that when that house comes, you're ready. And then, like you said, once you have that preparation, then you're ready to actually make that offer. We're going to talk about offers in the next podcast, but I think that strategy starts from the beginning.
And that financing piece, a lot of the time in a competitive market, is you can't even get into a house without that piece.
They won't even let you see it.
You can't even see the home unless you have pre-approval up to the number that they're looking for.
Right.
So it's just something you have to have prepared in general.
One thing that's kind of the same relationship with a seller that you do have with a buyer is you've got to realize that you're a team. There's the mortgage person, there's the whoever's buying the home, and then there's us. And we work together as a team. And I'm just going to give you this example of one great client that we had. They wanted a neighborhood. They were only going to purchase in this neighborhood. So we went crazy. We did everything that we could do for this neighborhood. The one house came up in the neighborhood and they were all in on it, and they lost it. And then because we were such a good team, they were also searching as well, driving through neighborhoods on the weekends and trying to find. And then they said, we found another neighborhood that we love. And we worked together, got them on the street in the neighborhood that they loved. And we would have never found that if we really didn't both understand each other and work as a team. And I think that's a lot of what your agent can do for you. They're looking for you all the time. And sometimes what you think you want and what you actually wind up purchasing are 2 different things.
Yep. How does market knowledge, which we have, help the buyers during the search? What can we do to help make it easier?
It's funny, but when they're talking to us, a lot of times our minds are spinning, because we're like, okay, well, that's that community in that neighborhood, that community in that neighborhood. And it's, you know the houses that are coming up in that. There's some neighborhoods that we can tell you what the issues are in that neighborhood. Yeah, that's a great neighborhood, but there's a lot of galvanized pipes.
A lot of landslides.
I think there's a good example of this.
A lot of landslides.
We had a house.
Windows.
We had 2 clients last year that were looking for their first home, and they had Yorba Linda, I think, is one of their main cities that they really loved. And with their price range, they really weren't going to be able to afford a house in that area.
What they were looking for, the type of house.
Right? Yes. And so Placentia was right next door. there were some newer areas of Placentia that are really nice, and we were able to kind of steer them right next door to where they were looking, and they ended up in a great house at a great
and loving
price
their
and
neighborhood.
loving.
And in the beginning, they said to us, "I don't know about that." You know, it's everybody says that, but you're right.
I think our knowledge of areas beyond just the city name or whatever really gives a little bit more value to us being able to steer people towards what
Right.
they really want.
Right.
I also think market knowledge also expands even beyond that to knowledge of the real estate landscape
Yes.
in the area, meaning not the actual houses themselves, but of the listing agents and the other agents that are important. I mean, it's important for you to have an agent that has a strong relationship with other agents.
Yes.
This is part of the reason that I would argue against going to like a Redfin or something, because you're not having that relationship with them, and that agent doesn't have a relationship with other agents. I can count on multiple hands the amount of times we've gotten houses, we knew of houses that were coming on the market. We've called agents that we know saying, we need a house in this community. You're the expert listing agent in that community. Do you have anything that's coming up? And they're like, yes, I do.
And
Do
you're
you
able
want
to put-
do you want to see it? And then we bring it in. We've even had that because we're both listing agents and buyer's agents, we've had it where there was one time we were showing this couple houses for a little while. They wanted a specific thing, and then someone called us in one of the communities we list many houses in and said, hi, I have exactly what your client just looked for. And we were like, let's do it. And they're both very happy. They sold the house off market so I think market knowledge applies both to actually what's on the market, but also of the real estate market.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I think we're about to touch on Eric's favorite subject, which
I was gonna let you
technology.
start on that one.
But
This is where I fade.
I get to answer this one first.
but real estate isn't just driving around on a Saturday looking for an open house sign when you're looking for a house and just showing up.
Yeah.
Like we've already talked about some of the things that we do with the buyer questionnaire and different ways to help streamline everything. But what can our clients expect? Our buyers' clients expect when we're helping them out look for a
Can
house?
I say one thing before you do? I know you're dying to say it, but Eric just said about Redfin. But just so you know, when they say to us that they found a house on Realtor.com or Zillow or Redfin, they say it almost like we're going to be upset. And we're like, we love those sites. So go ahead, I'll let you go now.
In terms of technology, I think real estate is actually one of the interesting industries in the world, because it's one of the ones that technology plays a big role, but also technology is never going to entirely replace, because you need to be in the house to buy the house. We did sell houses during COVID without people walking into them.
Well, they finally walked in.
And that happened, and people are still happy in those houses, but I honestly would not recommend, unless a worldwide issue occurs again, to buy a house sight unseen. And that means, like, the way we utilize it is you're getting search updates. You can see the house a lot of the time virtually. Virtual tours are actually really cool because you can measure things in houses.
Yeah.
You can there's different platforms out there that can, kind of like we're saying, that can give you, like, we can put in what you want, but they can also, AI is the cool word in the world these days. They can understand what you're looking for and give you similar type houses that you might not think of and all of that. So
that's an interesting thing that you just said, because that happens a lot to us with clients. Like, they will say, because they get updates, they get a minute updates, and they will have gotten a house that we didn't send them, and I'll be like, how did we miss this? And we didn't miss this. You changed your criteria without telling us.
Or
that's
the
helpful.
system changes its criteria on you because it recognized what you actually want. So it's kind of the thing I'm saying again of, like, there's leave no stone unturned. We're talking about, like, needing us to have the market knowledge, but also the internet to some degree has a different type of market knowledge.
Yes.
And it's important to bring it all together. It's that team you're talking about. It's us, it's the buyer, it's the other agents out there, and it's the AI bots that we pretend are our friends.
So, how does a buyer know when they found the one?
This is a fun. I don't know what your answer to this is going to be, but I'm going to give I guess I'm going to give the non-real estate answer to this. I I struggle with this too. I always thought this. People always told me when I went to college that I was going to walk on the campus and feel like I was at home. People always told me when I found my house, I was going to walk there and feel like I found my home. You tell the story of buying your house and that you turned the corner and you looked at your husband, my dad, and said, if we can't afford this, get me out of it because it's the one. And I don't get that. Maybe I'm just too like analytical or something. Maybe I'm too like into technology. I don't know what it is, but I've never walked into something and been like, this is it. So I think there's multiple aspects to it. I think there's an emotional one where it's, this is it. I can see my kids playing in the front yard. I can see my children doing their homework in that upstairs bedroom, and that matters.
I can sit in that corner and read my books.
But I also think the rest of it matters too. And I think if it works well in your price range, if the timing is right for you, if you've gone through a good enough strategy of seeing other houses, you're going to be able to recognize that this is a good choice for you because you've understood what else is out there. There's a lot of the time that we walk into houses with buyers and it's one of their first times looking at houses and they're like, I'm not sure. And I like want to like scream in the back of my head because it's like, no, this is a really good house. This one's nice. You just haven't seen enough on the market yet to recognize that this one's good. Like we need to go show you 6 more houses right now so you can see this one's worth it at this price range.
The truth is, though, like Eric said, no matter what it is, no matter if you're an emotional person, you're a finance person, you're a technological person, or you're an engineer, they're in a whole other group. Like when you see enough with all different people, I've had people that said, I have to have this house. This is my favorite house. And we've had people that have said, this one will work. Right? So if you just, whatever it is, we're there with you.
I think it's always a good test. And we tell this a lot of the time to our buyers is to like, in your head, what number would break your heart if the house sold for it? And you found out about it and you thought to yourself, if I knew it would have went up to just to that number, we would have done it. You kind of want to find that point in your head a little bit because that kind of gives you a way of saying like, well, when am I going to really kick myself? Because I love this house. Like, where's my limit? Like, kind of have those conversations with yourself.
And there's certain times in that when that answer is $0. Like I don't want this house at all. If it sells for nothing, I still don't want it.
Then you won't feel, but then you won't feel bad.
So I'll feel nothing. It's fine. I when I was looking for my own house, I remember I walked into this house that I thought was a house and apparently was like a nursing home. I don't know what was going on, but it was like, you couldn't pay me to live in this house. Yeah. They're selling it for $1 million. You couldn't pay me to live there. So obviously at that point, that number was like, it doesn't matter. So you know that's not the one.
Yeah.
But you don't want to play the game so much that I have this. I want to pay $500,000 for this house. I'm gonna kick myself if it goes for $550,000.
Yes.
And then you're all messed up.
And also, given where the markets are at these days, that number that he's saying, like, add an extra $100,000 to it because it's worth more than you think it is.
I was thinking about my own house like 10 years ago.
Next year it'll be worth more.
Yeah. We're not saying it's a bad choice. I'm just saying, like, don't underdo yourself because you think it should be worth something. Yeah. Don't lose out. Yeah. So I think that kind of wraps up all of the things we have on this one. So that's just kind of the searching aspect of it. On the next one, we're going to go into what happens when you find that one and how you make an offer, what an offer looks like, what those negotiations look like, why you use us as your buyer's agent to negotiate for you, and everything that goes on after your offer is accepted. So if you have any questions, as always, you can email us at info@limecoolergroup.com, comment on this podcast, comment on any of our social media, get in contact with us in any way. We work really hard to get our information out there. So you can contact us in any way and we'd be happy to answer them. If you do contact us, we'll try to answer it on the next podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
See you soon.